Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field, Lakeland, Florida. And our guest on television today is the general manager of the Tigers, Muddy Ruel. Muddy, I think, first of all, congratulations to you. You led the sweepstakes among the general managers this year of getting all your players signed.
Well, I don't know about having led all the general managers and getting all the lads in this year, but we were happy that the agreements made with the players were seemingly so satisfactory. Because it is nice to know that an entire group, the office and the men on the field, are in accord and satisfied with all things, which could lead to a very prosperous season. Something I'm not going to get too far into.
Well, that might prompt a question for me. Do you think the Tigers can improve their position of last year?
I thought that was an opening for you, Van. You would have disappointed me greatly if you hadn't asked it. Now we'll talk about something else, won't we?
Yes, we will. Of course, you have some returning servicemen, Muddy, who might make a big difference in this ball club, and a lot hinges on just how they do perform.
Well, that is going to be most interesting, we think. Last spring, Spike and I, the managers, had an idea that we wanted to start a program of youngsters, and we were most fortunate in having 2 or 3 lads come through reasonably well. And, of course, we also anticipate that they're going to be that much better this year, having had the experience of a full season in the major leagues. In men like Phillips and Black and Porter, we have a potential there that we believe was equal to that which the lads had last spring. Now, of course, down here, you get spring fever quickly. You anticipate things, and when you look around the field here and see these youngsters galloping all over the place, you feel young again, and when you feel young again, you're ambitious. When you're ambitious, you're wishful thinking that you're going high in the league. But we are encouraged by the first appearance of these lads, and of course, that is only mentioning a few. We've had some boys down here last year that went to the minor leagues and had good records. I mean, credible records, not phenomenal, but credible, solid records. And we're most encouraged about keeping up the idea of developing a young team which, once they get settled, they're going to be there for a long time. Then we'll begin to make predictions.
Okay, Muddy, I certainly won't make you, or ask you even, to make any predictions today. Thank you very much for appearing with us, and I'm sure the fans out across the state of Michigan are behind the Tigers 100%. They've certainly proven that by the way they've turned the turnstiles there, and this might be a wonderful time to mention, too, that the American League season at Detroit gets underway on the 14th of April with the Cleveland Indians providing the opposition. And I wish we had a ballpark big enough to hold everybody in the state that day, Muddy.
You always seem to say the right things at the right time.
Thank you. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field, Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our special guest today is what we've been saying, I think, for how many years now? The best trainer in the American League, Jack Homel. Doc, as he's familiarly known to all of the Detroit Tiger players. Jack, I think it goes without saying you win that honor hands down.
I'm not going to say anything about that, man. That's touchy.
Is it?
Sure.
Well, now, first of all, of course, Florida, we've had wonderful weather this year for spring training, some of the best weather we've had in the last 4 or 5 years down here. How about the condition of your ball club now?
It's a little early to say, Van, but the boys are getting in shape fast with this hot weather. It's the best I've seen in 14 years around here. And we have a lot more sunburn than we had, but we like to see that because we know the muscles are loosening up at the same time.
Jack, I might mention about the sunglasses, too. That sun is very bright out here today. Now I'm going to ask you the $64 question. That's about the condition of Ferrie Fain.
We're just hoping that Ferris is going to come along all right. He reported here naturally after the operation. We don't know too much about his knee. We're just hoping that he can get along, and it'll be all right. He's been hitting the ball good, and he's been running, been doing everything everybody else has been doing, a slight limp. But we're just hoping that he'll be in first-class shape when the season opens.
What's the primary ailment you get in spring training, Jack?
The old sore arms, and I hate to even think about them, much less talk about them.
Well, I think the principal sore arm in camp so far has been Iron Mike, the mechanical pitcher. You've been working on him, too.
He can get them all day. I don't care. I don't have to worry about him. But we have just a couple of boys with little minor sorenesses that they usually get in spring training. We're not too worried about them yet. Of course, it's only the second day, so we're not too anxious about that.
Jack, one thing you have to work on that a lot of the other major league clubs don't have, that is you have a lot of young athletes. The Tigers, of course, have the youngest ball club in the major leagues. You have young muscles to work on.
Doesn't it look good to see all those kids out there, Van? I know the fans in Detroit will be real happy about these boys, too.
What do you think about this ball club, Jack, what you've seen of it now in comparison to some of the other clubs we've had in the last few years here?
I think in as much as the boys are young and all in good shape and strong, these kids are so active that we have a good chance to be right up in there battling all year, I think.
Jack, as an old Californian, when are you going to admit the spring training is better here in Florida than it is in California?
There's too many Florida people standing around here not even mention that. I do like California, but this weather's perfect down here right now.
Of course, the Valley of the Moon in California, it stays this way, doesn't it?
They're all year round.
All year round. Thank you very much, Jack. It's been nice to talk to you, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Van.
That was Jack Homel, the finest trainer in baseball, who's been with the Tigers now for a number of years and doing an excellent job. And this is Van Patrick reporting from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Ferrie Fain, the first baseman acquired by the Tigers from the Chicago White Sox in the winter months. Ferris is grinning a little bit today, and well he might, because just a few weeks ago they were writing him off. They said the knee operation that he underwent last winter would just about end his baseball career. But judging by your performance around the initial sack here in the exhibition games, you are far from being through as a ball player.
Well, I think I am, Van. I think I'm going to play a little baseball this year, and I'm quite pleased about it all.
I noticed, too, that the knee certainly doesn't bother you when you swish that bat.
No, the agitators are out.
You've got a few hecklers, but pay no attention to them. One of them is Jack Homel. We always refer to him as the best trainer in baseball, and I know he's been doing a good job on that knee, too.
Well, in fact, Jack, I think is largely responsible that I've gotten around in shape as well as I have. He works on the knee daily, and with the exercise and all, it's come along real good. But as far as hitting, it doesn't bother me at all. I can swing the bat and feel no ill effects from it at all. So, all in all, I'm quite pleased with it.
Of course, the Tiger fans are certainly counting on you this year. I want to get a good look at you, too, first baseman. I'll take this cap off, and I might explain, too, this plastic helmet in here. That's the situation you use when that baseball sailed for the noggin.
No, that's more to cover up these gray hairs.
Ferris has been around baseball for some time now, but you're still a youngster, so to speak, in age. In 2 years, won the American League Batting Championship. I wish just this one season you'd regain that form and win it again.
Well, I certainly hope so, Van. And if I can play, I think I'm going to find Detroit a nice park to hit in. I always have liked hitting in Detroit. Of course, at Chicago is a lot longer. The ballpark is a bigger ballpark and consequently a little tougher to hit in. And I think I'm going to like Detroit a lot better. I hope so, anyway.
Ferris, you know, I noticed last year in the early part of the season while you were playing regularly with the Chicago White Sox that you were hitting home runs. I've always thought of you as being a spray-type hitter, fellow who didn't particularly hit a long ball. Were you swinging for the fences over there?
I don't know. I might have pumped up the muscles a little bit a couple of days there, and or the wind was blowing out. I think that probably was it.
Ferris, you've been, of course, in a lot of spring training camps. So how do you feel about the young Tigers out here?
Van, truly, I've never seen so many young, good ball players in one spring training camp in my life. Gosh, they've got some fellas here that just look like they're going to go for a long, long time. Take that fella Porter. Of course, there are a number of them that look real good, but that Porter has impressed me very, very much.
And, of course, in the infield, they have Ray Boone, another fellow Californian friend of yours who can belt that ball pretty good.
Another young fellow.
That's right. Well, it's been swell to talk to you today, and I might mention, too, to the television audience that one of the reasons that we both got dark here on the screen for a second was the fact that this Florida sun, although it shines brightly once in a while, does hide behind a cloud.
Yes, today we're having a little cloudy weather, so at least it's a little cooler than it has been.
Thank you very much, Ferris. Thank
you, Van.
Good luck to you. Ferrie Fain, the first baseman of the Detroit Tigers. Van Patrick speaking to you from Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp, Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Our guest on television today is Steve Gromek, who was the ace of the Tiger mound staff last year, winning 18 ball games. Steve, of course, that must have been a great deal of satisfaction for you, and I often commented during the broadcast and telecast of the Tiger games how many ball games you might have won had you been on a regular basis while you were pitching for the Cleveland Indians.
Well, it's hard to say, Van. You know, we had a great pitching staff over there, and I just couldn't break in. But I'm really happy to be over here with the Detroit Tigers, being home, being around my family, and enjoying home life very much.
Well, you had certainly opportunity to break into the Detroit pitching staff, didn't you?
Well, I was lucky. When I reported last spring, Hutch gave me a good shot at it, and I'm glad I responded as well as I did.
Steve, of course, is a delight to all radio broadcasters and newspapermen because he's the fastest pitcher in the major leagues, and not necessarily he throws the fastest ball in the major leagues, but he works faster. Steve, do you think that all pitchers should work that way, that'd be more effective, or do some pitchers actually have to take as much time as they do between deliveries?
Well, some pitchers have to take as much time. I don't have a variety of pitches. I only have one pitch, and what's the sense of wasting time and thinking about it?
What do you mean, one pitch?
In case the other teams are listening in, Van.
One pitch. Well, you certainly don't waste any time between pitches, I'll guarantee you that. And another thing, of course, Gromek doesn't walk too many men. How many men did you walk all last season, you remember?
Roughly speaking, around 50 men, Van.
And you pitched several ball games in which you didn't walk a single man.
I believe it was 7 ball games that I didn't walk a man.
Well, of course, the secret of that is to stay ahead of that batter.
Well, I was kidding with the fellas all summer that my body's only limited to 2 hours of work, and I can't afford to waste those pitches.
Steve, of course, we're looking forward again this year to you having another great year with the Detroit Tigers. Looks like if some of these young pitchers come along to give you some help, the Tigers might be a contender in there.
We have a lot of good-looking youngsters out here. They haven't thrown hard as yet, but they all look like they're in good physical condition, and I hope they respond as well as they look.
Steve, of course, I know you want me to ask you what you do in the off-season, don't you?
Thanks. I have a little bowling alley, and I hope some of the bowlers that are watching this particular program, I just want to say hello, and I miss you all.
You had a very fine season with them, too, didn't you?
Yes, I had a very good season in bowling. I had 12 leagues, and the people were very nice. I have very fine clientele, and I enjoy working with them, and I enjoy the work. It keeps me in good shape. In fact, I'm 5 pounds lighter now than when the season ended.
Steve, good luck to you this year. I hope you can improve on that 18 ball games this year.
I sure hope so, too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck. Here top the Tiger pitchers, 18 victories. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is the sensational young shortstop of the Detroit Tigers, Harvey Kuenn, who in the past couple of years for the Tigers in his regular seasons has batted over 300. Last 2 years has played in 155 ball games each year. Last year banged out a total of 201 hits. Also established an American League record of appearing at that plate. Harvey, of course, it must be a great thrill for you to bang out 200 or more hits each one of your major league seasons, too.
It certainly is, Van. I only hope I can keep right on going.
Harvey, I noticed this year in the exhibition ball games that you are hitting the ball over the fence with a lot of regularity. Now, are you swinging for the fences this year, or are you just trying to meet the ball?
No, Van, I'm not trying to hit the ball over the fence. I'm just trying for those base hits again. If the ball goes along well, I'm happy myself.
A lot of fans seem to think maybe that when you hit that ball that it has eyes. It finds a spot there's no fielder around. Or what is it, Willie Keeler used to say, hit them where they ain't, huh?
That's right, Van. I only hope that the ball keeps finding those holes.
Harvey, of course, your favorite subject is hitting. Now, let's talk a little bit about fielding. And I know last year that you could almost see your day-by-day improvement in your fielding. And along in the end of the season, you were one of the finest defensive shortstops in the major leagues. I noticed out here in spring training that Joe Gordon has been working quite a bit with you on the double play.
That's right, Van. Joe's helped me out a great deal, and I think that this year our double play output should, improve a great deal.
What has he done primarily now to help you in making the double play?
Oh, Van, he's got me going straight over the bag and taking a shorter step when I get to the bag. And, that enables me to get rid of the ball a lot quicker and save a lot of time.
How about the new first baseman you've been working with, Ferrie Fain?
Well, he's real good, Van. His record proves himself, and I think that Ferris is going to help us out a great deal.
Harvey, how do you feel about the club this year now in comparison with the last 2 years?
Well, Van, we got a very young ball club, and I think we have a lot more speed, and we're going to have a lot of better defensive ball club, and I think our pitching is going to improve a great deal.
How about the new manager the Tigers have this year?
Well, Van, he's a wonderful guy and a great fellow for youngsters to work for.
You know, one fellow that keeps heckling us when we are doing these television shows down here, Steve Gromek. I told him if he continued to do that, we'd quit mentioning that bowling alley he has in Detroit. That'll probably chase him away, I think. Harvey, I noticed, too, in the papers not so long ago that you announced your engagement. When is the wedding?
Well, Van, it's going to be after the season, probably November sometime.
You want to take this opportunity to invite all the televiewers to attend the wedding?
That's right. Anybody can come, Van.
And bring a gift.
A few base hits will do.
Thank you very much, Harvey. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and a lot of good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Van.
Thank you. That was Harvey Kuenn, the Tigers' sensational young shortstop. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Our guest today is the manager of the Detroit Tigers, Bucky Harris, who really needs no introduction to Tiger fans because he has served before as the manager of the Tigers, and I'm sure is happy to be back as manager of the Tigers, aren't you, Buck?
Van, I most certainly am. I hope that we have a good year and that the Detroit people will be very proud of this young outfit.
Well, Buck, you've had 45 youngsters look at out here in the spring training camp, and you're going to have a tough time deciding your opening day lineup.
Well, that is very true. I think the biggest thing, though, Van, would be in the pitching. There's so many of these young pitchers that look so good that I'm a little fearful that it'll be up until April before I can make up my mind.
You're going to take a lot of pitchers back north with you then?
Well, those that I'm impressed with, particularly.
Well, let's talk about that pitching just a little, Bucky. One of the big faults the Tigers had last year, one of the troubles they had, was relief pitching. I know that if we had come up with a couple of relief pitchers, the Tigers would have been much, much higher over that 500 mark.
Well, I dare say that's true, Van, but of course Freddie Hutchinson didn't have the crowd and the class to look at that I have. I think that that particular point will be strengthened considerably. As it stands now, I expect, of course, Gromek, Garver, Heft, Miller, and Larry to be my starters. However, you never can tell with the performance of such as Froats and Moss, kids like that, Black. They may make me change my mind before it's over with.
What about the catching, Buck?
Well, the catching's adequate, Van. I like House and Wilson, and in my opinion, they should improve a little this year.
First base, you have Wayne Bellardi, Ferrie Fain, and also Big Jack Phillips can play over there.
That's true. Of course, the big question mark is will Fain's knee hold up, and I sure hope it does.
Well, boy, in the exhibition games he's played in, his knee has looked very good.
Not bad at all.
Now, at second base, of course, that was one of the problems for the Tigers last year, and how do you feel about Freddie Hatfield?
Well, I think Freddie will do a good job, Van. This happens to be the first opportunity that Fred has had to take over what you call a regular position, and I think he'll perform quite well. As you know, he is a good glove man, and in my opinion should hit about 280, 285, and we should be satisfied with that.
Of course, I can skip over a shortstop and third base.
I think you can, very safely.
All right, let's go to the outfield now. I notice almost from the opening day of spring training, you put young J.W. Porter out in left field, and there he's been in the exhibition games.
Well, I like the boy so much, Van, and in my opinion, the smart thing to do is keep playing him, so that if he has any weaknesses, he will perfect them before the season opens up, and then, of course, I will be some happy.
Of course, and Bill Tuttle and the young fellow playing in right field, you don't have too many problems with the rest of
No,
your
that's
outfield.
right, and of course, young Bubba Phillips, he isn't hitting too well right now, but has a lot of ability, and should somebody get hurt and that boy gets in there and gets the going, you may not get him out. And, of course, Delsing is very handy
Yes, he
also.
is. And, of course, Jack Phillips, the big utility infielder, we didn't mention him, but he could certainly help, couldn't he?
Yes, Phillips and Betroyak will help me in defense in case somebody gets hurt, and, of course, Muddy's still looking for something better.
Bucky, I want to thank you very much, and I want you to know that all of the fans of the state of Michigan and nearby Canada and Ohio and Indiana are all pulling for you and the Detroit Tigers this year.
I hope I don't throw him down.
Thank you very much, Buck. Good luck to you. Bucky Harris, the manager of the Detroit Tigers. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Kaline, the sensational young right fielder of the Tigers, who last year not only amazed the baseball world by opening up the day as the right fielder for the Tigers, but then turned in a sparkling year for the Detroiters. And Al, of course, I think it goes without saying your number one thrill of the year was that grand slam home run you had against the Philadelphia Athletics, wasn't it?
That's right, Van. Very definitely.
You know, the fans probably have a tough time recognizing you this year because you look a lot bigger to me.
Well, I am a lot larger than I was at the end of the season, Van. I'm 20 pounds heavier.
And during the winter months, I might mention, two things happened to Al. He got married for one thing, and evidently the lovely Mrs. Kaline is a good cook, isn't she?
That's right, Van.
And the other thing that happened to you of note was the fact that they have remodeled right field at Briggs Stadium. Have you seen the stadium since they remodeled it?
No, I haven't, Van.
What happened over there to you last year when you injured your knee? Did you run into that corner that was jutting out, or what happened?
Yeah, I took a couple somersaults in the seats over there.
Well, Mr. Walter O. Briggs took one look at that. I believe he was sitting right above you that day, and he decided they would just remove the box seats from that particular section of Briggs Stadium so that you would have more room to roam in right field. That'll help you in foul territory.
I think so, Van, anyhow.
Al, going back over last season, you were swishing that bat pretty good, too, and were approaching the 300 mark when you injured the knee, and then you got back in the lineup. I guess the layoff sort of took the timing away, didn't it?
That's right, Van. I was had my eye on the ball pretty well at the end of the year.
I noticed, too, this year in the spring exhibition ball games that you are hitting the ball, seemingly to me, with much more power than you had last year.
Well, that's right, Van. I'm hitting the ball further. I just hope they don't go out to the outfield. But last year, they just dropped them over the infield. Now they might just drop into the outfielder's hand.
Are you swinging any differently? I mean, are you swinging for the fences?
No, it's the same. I'm just hitting it harder, I believe.
Al, of course, you just thrilled everybody last year with a lot of throws you made from right field and cutting down a lot of base runners. And, of course, all of the American League base runners developed a lot of respect for your throwing arm. And they round first base when anything hit the right field. They take a good look before heading for second. What about the play? You remember the play you made on Dale Mitchell when you threw him out from right field while sitting down last year?
Yes, I do, Van.
Let's talk about that play for just a moment. Did you slip and fall before you got the ball, or what happened on it?
No, I dove after the ball, and I deflected it, and I picked it up while I was laying down and threw it to second base.
Boy, that was really a thrill for all the fans assembled, I can tell you. So you've got quite a bit of competition out here in the outfield this year, haven't you?
That's right, Van. We have a lot of good-looking young outfielders this year.
Bill Tuttle, of course, is over there with you, and a lot of times during the season last year, we kept waiting for the time that you and Bill Tuttle would collide going after a baseball. How did you prevent that?
Well, I don't know. Bill's flying all over the place out there. It's hard to keep in touch with him.
What do you do? Just yell Tuttle, or he yells Kaline, or how do you go about deciding who's going to take one?
He does all the yelling. If he wants to catch it, he's got the right of way out
there. He's the center fielder. Right. He's the man with authority. Then,
He calls him.
Young Bubba Phillips can go and get him, too.
Oh, he can really fly.
And how do you feel about young J.W. Porter?
Well, I think Jay is going to be one of the real great outfielders I've ever seen.
Well, Al, I hope this year you get over that 300 mark, and a lot of good luck to you.
Thank you, Van.
Thank you very much. Al Kaline, the Tigers' sensational young right fielder, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Bill Tuttle, the sensational young center fielder of the Tigers. And, Bill, during the winter months, they tell me you spent a lot of time working in a lumber yard. You were taking a lot of lumber around. And I hope this summer you don't take too much lumber to the plate and bring it back.
Well, that's right, Van. I worked pretty hard this winter handling lumber, and it really helped me out. I reported in spring training lighter, actually, than I was when the season ended last year, so I'm in real good shape.
I noticed last year that you were very heavy, and Kaline was sort of on the skinny side, and this year you look about the same size.
I'm just only about 9 or 10 pounds heavier than Al right now, Van.
Bill, I know long about this time last year you had a big question in your mind whether you would be able to stick with the Tigers or not. I don't think, honestly, in your heart you had any idea that you'd be the regular center fielder all season, did you?
Now, when it started, Van, no. I knew they were going to give me a good chance, and, well, as it happened, everything went right, and I was there.
Of course, in the early stages of the American League season, you were leading the league in batting, which must have been a great thrill for you.
Yeah, it was. Didn't last long enough, though.
Well, maybe this year you could take up and actually lead the league longer than just the early part of the season. I certainly hope so.
Well, I'd like to.
Bill, down at Bradley at Peoria, you were an end in football. Is that right?
That's right, Van.
Well, you know, you can tell that in some of the catches you make out in center field, getting the ball over your shoulder, you catch it very much like a football end. You get probably as much of a break on a ball when it's hit as anybody I can think of. I know Tris Speaker has told me many times that you had the natural instinct out there for a center fielder in that you just had the instinct of knowing where that ball was going was hit. How does that come about?
Well, Van, that's just one of those things that I can't answer, really. I see where the pitch is going to be pitched and more or less leaning that way, and when the ball's hit, I've got a pretty good jump. But actually, I can't tell you why I get a good jump on a ball. Just one of those things. I suppose you would call it an instinct. You can stand right by and tell somebody where it's going to go, and they'll go the opposite direction. So I don't know what it is, really.
Just as long as you can keep catching them, that's all.
As long as I catch them, I don't care how I get them or where they're at if I get them.
So, you know, you've had some competition out in that outfield this year with J.W. Porter and young Bubba Phillips.
That's right, Van, and unfortunately I got missed a couple ball games already this spring, and I don't know, I don't dare miss too many more the way them guys are hitting. I'm liable to find myself
Out of a
worried
job?
more than I was last year.
I don't think so. Bill, a lot of good luck to you, and it's been swell to talk to you today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Van.
Thank you very much. Bill Tuttle, the sensational young center fielder of the Detroit Tigers, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. And our guest today is the young man you've heard so much about and read so much about, young J.W. Porter, who is making a bid to start in the Tigers' opening day lineup at Kansas City and at Briggs Stadium. And I can say right here and now that this young fellow, the way he's been swishing the bat in the exhibition games and fielding his position in left field, certainly has a fine chance of doing just that. Jay has quite a background as a baseball player. He was signed for a big bonus by the Chicago White Sox, traded to St. Louis because they knew he was going in the Army, and then sold and traded to the Detroit Tigers because the Browns knew he was going in the Army, and the Tigers, of course, were willing to let Mr. J.W. Porter go to the Army for 2 years because they felt in this young fella they had a bright prospect. And the way you've looked so far in the exhibition games, Jay, I think that confidence will be justified.
Well, thank you, Van.
Jay, of course, left field, they just put you out there and installed you. Now, in the Army, you were a catcher, a first baseman, and also played the outfield and managed the ball club. What about the outfielding?
Well, Van, when I first went into the Army, Mr. Gehringer then was general manager of the Tigers, and he told me to catch, which I did for quite some time, and then Mr. Ruel took over, and the plans changed, and they put me in the outfield, and also told me to play a little first base, so I moved around a little.
Uh-huh. Jay, of course, you told me the other day that your principal position was hitting. You'd rather hit than do anything else in baseball. I notice right here in your hand you have a bat, too. That's one of those Louisville sluggers. That a special type of bat? Do you like a long bat, or what size bat do you like?
Well, it's 35. I've always used a longer bat.
You have used a longer bat than that?
Well, no, not too much longer than this, but I could never do much with anything smaller.
Mm-hmm. Jay, I noticed, too, that you are pretty much a stand-up hitter. That is, you don't use a lot of these crouches we see around in baseball today.
Yes, I've tried all the different types, I guess, throughout baseball, but I've always hit much better standing straight up. I could never hit from a crouch.
I noticed, too, you stand way back in the batter's box. Any reason for that?
No, just habit, I guess. Something I got used to.
Of course, you'll realize that baseball ambition now on opening day if you're in left field for the Detroit Tigers, won't you?
I certainly will, Van.
Jay, we want to wish you a lot of luck, and I know the fans all over the Middle West will be pulling for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
That
very
was
much.
J.W. Porter, the young outfielder, making a bid for a starting position with the Tigers. This is Van Patrick, speaking to you from Henley Field, Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is John Bubba Phillips, young outfielder, just released from Uncle Sam's service and now back to try at a job with the Detroit Tigers. Just a couple of years ago, wasn't it, Bubba? You were here in this Tiger training camp before you reported to Uncle Sam.
That's right, Van, about 2 years ago.
You know, you had a good chance of making the ball club that year, and since that time, of course, you've had a lot of opportunity to play baseball as you played for Uncle Sam, didn't you?
Yes, I did, Van. I got to play a couple of years in there. We played about 75, 80 games each year.
And how did your ball club do, you recall?
Well, we won most of them, Van. I guess we lost 10 or 12 games each year.
You know, we have two Phillips in camp with the Tigers, and in the exhibition games, it gets a little confusing, especially on the broadcast when we say Phillips throws to Phillips, and somebody wonders where Patrick was last night, you know. But I better explain, and they're both Johnny Phillips. Of course, this is Bubba Phillips, and the other tall, rangy infielder is Jack Phillips. Do you fellows have any trouble with your mail or telegrams or phone calls?
Just a little bit, Van. Jack's been bringing me a few letters now and then.
Well, you're both married, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Uh-huh. What about telephone calls? Do you live in the same hotel, or what?
No, we don't. I have an apartment out in town. I don't believe his wife came with him.
Uh-huh. Bubba, now, you were quite a football player at Mississippi Southern College, and you're from Macon, Mississippi. How is it that you didn't take up professional football? I understand the scouts were hot on your trail.
Well, Van, I could have played a little professional football with San Francisco 49ers, but I figured being as small as I was, that baseball would be a lot better for me.
Bubba, too, is a speed merchant, I can tell you that. And in the outfield now, the Tigers have, without a doubt, the finest defensive outfield in the major leagues. These fellas can really go and get that baseball. Now, of course, the one thing that we want to see is a little more hitting from that outfield out there.
Well, I think we could use that, Van, a little bit everywhere.
Well, you've really got some competition out there, haven't you?
Certainly have some fine boys out there, Van.
How do you feel about this ball club as the one you saw a couple of years ago when you were down here? Improved quite a bit or not?
It's improved a lot. There's not very many boys as I knew when I came to spring training.
Now, your last year of professional baseball was the 52 season? Was it 53 season? When
I
was
had 52 season with Buffalo.
You batted, what, around 291 that year, didn't you?
Yeah, I think about that.
How much did you hit in the Army? You remember your batting averages?
Well, we didn't face too good pitchers in the Army, but I think first year I hit about 370, second year I hit about 350.
In other words, the pitching in the major leagues is a little different. Huh?
Just a little bit.
Bubba, it's been swell to talk to you today, and I want to wish you the very best of luck. It'll be great to see you performing in Briggs Stadium.
Thank you, Van. I hope to be there.
Thank you very much. John Bubba Phillips, young outfielder from Mississippi Southern. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and as our special guest on television today, we have two new members of the Detroit Tigers, and both acquired by the Tigers from the Chicago White Sox in a trade that sent Dropo and Neiman and Ted Gray along to Chicago, brought to the Tigers Ferrie Fain, Leo Cristanti, and Jack Phillips. And on my right here is Leo Cristanti, who is a Detroit boy, and I'm sure is thrilled by the fact he'll be with the Tigers this year. And here's Jack Phillips, who was the Pacific Coast most valuable player last season. First of all, Leo, I know it was a big thrill for you when you heard you had been traded to your hometown Tigers.
Yes, it was, Van. I thought it was one of the biggest thrills of my life because I always wanted to play for my hometown team, you know.
How did you get out of Detroit to begin with?
Well, I was in '44. I was signed by the Phillies, and I went to the Army after that, and I was kind of disappointed because I always wanted to play with Detroit, see. But I wanted to play baseball, so they signed me in '44, and after I come out of the Army, I actually began playing ball in '47.
You had a fine year with Atlanta in the Southern Association last year, didn't you?
Yes, I did. In fact, I think it was one of the best years of my life.
And that's 24 victories you had against only, what, 7 defeats?
7 defeats.
Oh, what was your earned run average, you remember?
I think it was over 3 point something.
What pitch won all those 24 ball games for you? Any particular pitch?
No, not any particular pitch, just a variety of each, I guess.
Some of those ballparks are pretty tough to pitch in, too, aren't they? Are those short fences?
Yeah, they're all short fences, and to top it off, they got that rabbit ball, you know. It goes quite a ways. It really does.
Of course, now to really realize your baseball ambition now is that you stick with these Tigers this year, isn't it?
That's right. That's a big ambition.
I know you got a lot of fans back in Michigan pulling for you.
Thanks, Van. I hope so. Anyway.
Thank you very much, Leo. Leo Cristanti. Now here's Jack Phillips, and certainly Jack is no rookie in Major League Baseball. He played Major League Baseball with the New York Yankees. You were also in the National League, weren't you, Jay?
I was with Pittsburgh, man.
And now you're in the American League again and with the Detroit Tigers. How did you feel when you heard you had been picked up by the Tigers?
Well, I'll tell you, Van, I was happy that Chicago had bought me last August and to be back in the American League. And then during the winter, when I was down in Cuba playing baseball, I picked up the paper one day and I read that Detroit had acquired me in a trade. Well, it made me very happy because Bucky is managing here, and I had played ball for Bucky when I was with the Yankees. And also, my wife is from Detroit, Van.
Well, that's wonderful. Of course, you're from Buffalo, right around Buffalo, aren't you?
Just outside of Buffalo, man. Yeah, I used to listen to you many a time.
Good. Jack, now another thing. You were voted the most valuable player in the Pacific Coast League last year. When I think of a most valuable player, I think of a fellow who's sort of a jack of all trades. You played more than one position, didn't you?
Well, Van, for the last 3 years I have out there. Last year I started out as shortstop. Then we acquired Dick Smith from the Pirates, so I went over to third base. And then Dale Long, our big first baseman, got hurt, so I ended up playing first base. But I was in 3 infield positions throughout the year.
Well, you may get an opportunity to play several of them with the Tigers.
Nothing can make me more happy.
Thank you, Jack. Jack Phillips and Leo Cristanti, 2 newcomers to the Tiger roster this year. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. We have 2 special guests on television for you today. George Zuberink, who did a very fine job for the Tigers in pitching last season after joining the club, and also Freddie Hatfield, second baseman. George, congratulations on the fine job for the Tigers after you joined them last year.
Thank you, Van. It was really a pleasure becoming a Tiger, and I hope I can stay here many years.
Say, things kind of picked up over in Holland, Michigan when you joined the Tigers, didn't
They
it?
sure did, Van, and everyone really appreciated all the publicity you gave me and the town, believe me.
Well, we're very happy to do it, and how do you feel about the ball club this year?
I am very high on it, Van. I'm sure that most of the rest of the ball players are. I think we have a Great ball club this year. I think we can go quite high.
Do you really?
I really do.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear. And, you know, the players feel that way. It might make a tremendous difference.
Well, I'm all set to give all I got.
Well, I'm sure you will. How do you feel this year?
Great, Van.
Look a little heavier to me. Did you gain some weight?
Yeah, I'm about 5 pounds heavier than when we ended up the season last year.
Well, the Florida weather, you'll lose that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, George. Congratulations to you and good luck to you.
Thank you, Van.
Thank you, George Zuberink. And now let's get Freddie Hatfield in here. Fine young second baseman of the Tigers. Freddie, how are you?
How are you, Van?
You know, this is one time when Freddie Hatfield starts off a spring training season and they're naming him as the second baseman. That's one of the best shots you've ever had in the major leagues.
It looks a little different to me, Van. This is the first time I believe I've ever went out to a position. Didn't see about 25 guys standing there when I got there.
Well, you know, one very encouraging note about your second basing is the fact that Charlie Gehringer, who in my estimation was just about the greatest second baseman, believes that you can handle the job capably. So that should be enough recommendation.
Well, I hope so, Van.
How about the stick, huh?
Well, I think I have improved a little bit on my hitting, Van. I have a little more confidence than I've ever had before, and I think that's because I've got a lot of help from left-handed hitters. Even Gehringer himself helped me a lot with my hitting.
Well, do you believe this ball club, like George Zuberink, can move a little bit in the standings this year?
I think we have a real good chance this year, Van. I think we'll get off to a good start because we have so many young fellows that'll be in shape to begin with, and we have a couple of new faces, and I believe we're going to come up with a little better relief pitching this year than we had last year.
That would help, wouldn't it?
I believe so, Van.
Freddie, thanks very much for appearing with us on television today, and we're looking forward to the opening of that season at Briggs Stadium on April 14th, aren't we?
That's right, Van.
Thank you. Freddie Hatfield and George Zuberink, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Tigers training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and we have two rookies as our special guest on television today. Two newcomers here in the Tiger camp. On my right here is Dizzy Trout, my colleague on the baseball broadcast and telecast. I'll give you 30 seconds while you look up colleague. And off to my left here is Lenwood Schoolboy Rowe, just breaking in with the Tigers. Len, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Van.
You know, the only way Diz would consent to go on this program today is that you come along and he be allowed to interview you.
And I don't think that's going to work out, Van.
So, Diz, go right ahead. The microphone is yours, boy, and you can interview him.
You watch the timepiece there.
I'll watch it.
I don't know how long it's going to take me to interview Rowe, but I got a couple of questions from last year's baseball that everyone seems to want to know a little bit about. We want to know about some of the pranks that the boys pulled on you last year, Rowe, and just name them now if you got time.
Oh, man, that takes a long time. Well, they nailed my shoes down in Cleveland at the last series there, and I didn't get to coach. Another time I had a new glove, and I didn't get to use it for 2 months. It stayed in the whirlpool all the time. And cut my socks off and tied my shoes up. And I don't know. I could name too many things, Diz. It wasn't so good.
Do you suspect anybody?
Well, I always said Diz was behind it, but he swears he wasn't.
Well, listen, there's something about a telegram that came into Cleveland, too, about your fine. I believe it was in Chicago it happened, and you think I also had something to do with that, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a letter from the president of the American League saying I was fined $25, and when I got into Cleveland, there's a wire saying I was suspended for 3 days without pay, which made it much rougher.
Tell me about the time in school that you walked in and you had a banquet to go to up in Detroit, and your pants were locked up, too. There's another one of those pranks.
Oh, yes. I was going to a banquet with Gehringer, and someone had a big bicycle lock, and they had my britches on a lock, and I couldn't tell them that's all the pants I had, you know, so I couldn't unlock them.
Well, Van, that was some of the things that the fellows pulled on Schoolie last year, and I should add another thing, too. The last day of the season, they put a lot of itching powder in his uniform, but he didn't even notice it down in Cleveland.
I'm glad Diz has mentioned that because he's the one that did it, and I know it.
Diz, we might get serious with him for just a moment and ask him about the young pitchers he has in camp here with the Tigers.
Boy, there's something to talk about, too. So I'll let you have this mic, Van. Why don't you interview him on those pitchers?
Well,
he's got plenty of them.
Because you told me to watch the watch, and I don't have actually that much time to find out about it. But, Schoolie, I know you're encouraged by some of the youngsters you've seen, aren't you?
Well, Diz, Van, pardon me, Van.
Yeah, he's heavier than I am.
Yes. Well, so far, 2 days is hard to tell, but I want to tell you one thing. The young fellas are really getting the ball over the plate in batting practice, which means a lot. I mean, the control has improved, and after all, that's a secret.
Thank you very much, Lenwood Rowe, and also Dizzy Trout. I'll be seeing you later, I trust.
Thank you, Van, and I see that your hair's coming out a little bit this spring, too.
Yes, it is. I am using a special formula this year. That's sunshine only, and orange juice for vitamins. Van Patrick reporting to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. And our special guest on television today is the president of the Detroit Tigers, Spike Briggs. Spike, we're all eagerly looking forward to the beginning of the 1955 baseball season, especially with the returning to the Tiger uniform of several youngsters who've been in the service the last couple of years. That so much has been written about and talked about. If these youngsters can pick up some of the slack left out last year, the Tigers might be up there as contenders this year.
Well, that's what we hope, Van. You know, we're in the sort of the middle year of our 3-year program, and part of the program was getting young fellows that we were cognizant of the fact that we're going into the service, but we felt they were young enough that when they came out, we would have them for a long time in the future. And I think that with Bucky handling the club, and you know how he is with young ball players, he's had an excellent experience in the past. We feel that we've got the makings of a real pennant contender, maybe not this year, and maybe this year, but in the next few years to come.
Well, of course, as we pointed out, Spike, almost every spring, it's pretty difficult to make trades for ball players because anybody who has a ball player today just won't give him up. So about the only thing you can do, as they say in Boston, is rear them. And that's what the Tigers have been trying to do with nearby Tiger Town and the farm system under the capable direction of Johnny McHale. And that farm system is certainly beginning to pay off.
Well, that's true. Of course, going along with our youth program, we went all the way down through the farm system on it, as you know. I don't think so much has been spoken of that. They've talked about the Detroit Ball Club and their youth program, but actually, if you look down through the farm system as such, you'll find that we've also lowered the age limits down there so that we feel that we're building from the bottom up all the way.
I think we'll have a very interesting season. Of course, one aim that I know you have, and that is to give the fans of Michigan the pennant they so richly deserve. And as you say, it shouldn't be too many years off now with the fine youth we have. But the fans of Michigan have certainly been wonderful, haven't they?
Oh, they're always wonderful. They've waited for us, and we told them a couple of years ago that it was going to take some time, and they stuck right with us. And we hope that their patience and that our work is going to pay off in big dividends. At least they're going to see a fast and a speedy outfit out there, and they're also going to have some room in right field so Kaline doesn't break his back again.
We were kidding him the other day on television, Spike. He's probably the only ball player that I can think of has had a ballpark completely remodeled by cutting down the seats. Usually they're adding seats, not taking them away.
Bringing in the fences so somebody can hit a lot of home runs. Incidentally, have you seen the ballpark since we've taken that curve out?
I certainly have, and it's beautiful.
A whole new ballpark.
Yeah, and while you're mentioning that, we still have some tickets available for the opening day, so a lot of other folks can see it, too. Spike, how do you feel about the other ball clubs in the American League now that you've talked about your own?
Well, Van, you've got me a little on the short side now because I haven't seen any of them. All I know is what I read and hear. And
you got enough worries with the Tigers.
Yes, and a few other things, and so I couldn't give you an answer. Maybe at the end of spring training, if I get a chance to see some of them, I will have some news for you on that.
It's been a great pleasure to talk to you, and I don't mind telling you, and I'm sure the fans all across Michigan can see how wonderful you look. How's your golf down here?
Thank you a bunch. I played just once since I've been down here. I took the GM apart a little bit yesterday.
Thank you very much, Spike. Fans, that was Spike Briggs, the president of the Detroit Tigers, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from Tiger Town, USA, where the Detroit minor league clubs are in operation. And our guest today is John McHale, the director of the Tigers farm system, young man who formerly played first base for the Detroit Tigers and who has turned in a magnificent job in the Tiger farm system. And that farm system had to be rebuilt completely. And already products from that farm system are in Briggs Stadium. And Johnny, from the looks of the camp that Bucky Harris had at Henley Field, some 45 players this year, that farm system is beginning to pay off.
Well, we are moving a few boys up, Van. It's about time, I guess, but it's a slow process, especially with military draft and things like that.
Johnny, I wish we had the time on this television show to show just exactly what we mean. We say Tiger Town, USA, because you certainly have a wonderful plant here, and I wish you would take just about a minute and explain exactly what you do have.
Well, we have two dormitories, Van. We house some 250 ball players. We have a unit where we feed everybody. We have 3 or 4 fields and everything else that goes with training ball players, and it's quite a sight. As you said, you can't very well describe it. You have to see it to appreciate it.
John, I wish you would also pick out some of the players as the sun hides behind the clouds here, and that's the reason that television screen gets a little darker, that the Tiger fans might be seeing now in another couple of years?
We've had 2 or 3 young pitchers who've looked awfully good so far this year, Van. Larry Donovan of Ionia, Michigan, Bob Bruce of Highland Park, Emil Karlik, a young left-hand hitting outfielder, has done very well, and we can reasonably expect those fellows to be up with us in a year or so.
Mm-hmm. John, a lot of young fellows the Tigers have signed this year will be sent to minor league farm clubs, but of course you have plenty of contracts remaining now if anybody is interested in joining this organization.
We've got lots of contracts and lots of clubs this year, Van. We've increased our system to 2 more clubs. A lot of people are cutting down. We're expanding.
Uh-huh. Can you name the clubs in the Tiger farm system?
Yes, we have Buffalo, Little Rock, Augusta, Durham, Terre Haute, Greenville, Idaho Falls, Valdosta, Jamestown, and Panama City. We might have a couple more before the season ends if our scouts keep signing players like they are.
How many ball players would you say you have in the farm system altogether?
About 280 ball players now, Van. This supply was greatly increased by the return of some 40-odd servicemen who've been in the military service, and many of them came back looking very good.
John, one other thing I would like to point out, I'd like to have you point out, is the fact that all baseball fans are unofficially Tiger Scouts, aren't they?
That's right, Van. Anytime that one of our fans, any place in this country, would like us to look at a ball player, we're always too happy to jump on our motorcycles and go look for them.
John, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you today, and I hope that next year that we can do a whole series of programs here from Tiger Town and have the fans get a first-hand look at this vast operation you have.
Well, thank you, Van. You've always been a great booster of ours, and it takes that to make everything go successfully.
Thank you very much. That was John McHale, the Tigers farm director. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from Tiger Town, USA. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from Tiger Town, USA. And our guest today is the farm director of the Detroit Tigers, Johnny McHale. Johnny, as you fans know, is the first baseman for the Detroit Tigers before moving into the front office. And as the farm director has turned in a magnificent job, because already many products of the farm system are converting around at Henley Field, the Tigers' major training base, and also several of them will be at Briggs Stadium this summer. Johnny, I wish we had the time on this television program today to show the fans exactly what we mean by Tiger Town, USA, but I wish you would put it into words for us.
Well, Van, briefly, it's like a small town. We have 250 citizens here in the town, and we house them and feed them and train them. And it consists of 2 dormitories where they live and a place where they eat and a place for recreation and 4 fields where they spend most of the time working.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very happy with the way things have improved out here and come along, and I think we're going to have a few dividends paid out on the work we've been doing out here.
John, we mentioned the Tigers farm system. I wish you'd run over the names of the clubs that the Tigers either own or have working agreements with.
We have 10, Van. We have Buffalo and Little Rock, Augusta, Georgia. Then we go to Durham, North Carolina, and Terre Haute, Indiana, Greenville, Mississippi, and Idaho Falls, Idaho, Jamestown, New York, Valdosta, Georgia, and Panama City, Florida.
And you hope to add more while other clubs are cutting down, aren't they?
That's right, Van. We're rather encouraged with the quality of our players, and we're finding that now that we're getting better players and retaining them longer, we're going to have more clubs upon which to play them.
John, I wish you'd single out a few of the young players running around out here at Tiger Town that we might be seeing in a couple of years at Briggs Stadium.
Well, Van, we've had some fine young pitchers over here working. Larry Donovan from Ionia, Michigan has looked very good. Bob Bruce from Highland Park has done very well. We have a young outfielder, left-hand hitting outfielder, by the way, which you would be happy to hear about.
I've heard about him. A fellow by the name of Garlick, is that?
Karlik.
Karlik.
Yeah,
Karlik.
Karlik. Yeah. He's back from the service and looks very solid. He might be up here in a couple of days.
Uh-huh. John, I noticed, too, they're getting lineups now of one of these exhibition ball games they're going to have out here at Tiger Town. And, of course, it won't be long before the International League and the Southern Association will be underway with their ball games. And I'd just like to sort of ask you now a little bit. I know you don't want to talk too much about it, but how you feel about the Tigers. You've seen them in action in exhibition games all spring.
Well, I've seen them a couple of games, Van. They look fast. The pitching looks better. I think if we can come up with somebody who can wrap that ball pretty good, we might cause some trouble this year.
Well, I certainly hope so. It'd make a lot more enjoyable afternoons and evenings for us, I'll tell you.
That's right, Van. There's nothing like winning, and the fans of Detroit and Michigan deserve the best.
John, I want to thank you very much and wish you the very best of luck, and I hope next season we can do a whole series of programs from here.
Thank you, Van. You've always been a fine booster of ours, and it helps very much.
Thank you, Johnny. Johnny McHale, the farm director of the Detroit Tigers, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from Tiger Town, USA. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and I have several members of the Tigers I'd like to introduce to you today. And standing here with me, one of the new Tiger coaches, Jack Ty, who has been in the Tiger organization for many, many years. Jack has served as a manager, as a scout, and now he has been elevated to the capacity as coach of the parent club. Jack, how many years have you been in the Tiger organization?
This will be my 19th year, Van.
Can you recall any of the 19 years the Tigers have had more young prospects in camp than they have this year?
No, by gosh, I can't. They have a wonderful collection of boys here, and it isn't going to be very long before they're going to start winning some pennants.
Jack, I noticed, too, you've been spending a lot of time with Ray Herbert. How do you feel about him this year?
Well, I've always felt that Herbert should be a real good pitcher, and this year it's a personal project with me to help that boy realize something from the tremendous amount of ability he has. And down here, I think this is going to be his year, Van. I feel very positive that he's going to be one of the better pitchers in the American League, not alone on the Tiger staff.
Jack, I want to thank you very much for stopping by here. And you mentioned Ray Herbert. He's walking over this way now, and we're going to call him in here. Good luck to you, and congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, Van.
That was Jack Ty. Now let's get Ray Herbert, the young right-hander from Detroit. Ray, of course, before he went into work for Uncle Sam, won 4 straight ball games for the Tigers, and last year coming back had his troubles, his ups and downs. Ray, what primarily are they changing this year for you?
Well, we're working on a few different pitches. Jack Ty has been working with me about my delivery, that I've been giving away pitches. The other opposition coaches have been picking up and relaying to their hitters, and that's kind of bad for a pitcher when a hitter knows what he's throwing.
You feel this may be the year, too, you really find yourself?
I think so. Jack Ty has been working with me every day, and I think we're going to work all spring training on strictly on my delivery and pitching in itself.
Thank you very much, Ray, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Van.
Ray Herbert, the right-hander from Detroit. Now here's Paul Foytak, who worked last year with Buffalo and Louisville, and a fellow who's getting a firm shot at the Tiger pitching staff this year. Paul, how are you?
Fine, Van.
What about last year? Now, you got a shot at this club last year, and you finally wound up with Louisville and Buffalo. How about it? Can you make it this year?
I believe I can, Van. I feel sure that I can.
Well, you've been looking very good in these exhibition games. We want to wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you, Van.
Thank you. That was Paul Foytak. And now here's the impresario of the dairy farms from Utica, Michigan, Duke Moss. Duke, boy, we've heard a lot about you down in the minor leagues there in the Tiger farm system. And Bucky Harris is very high on you, and you're getting a brilliant shot to make the Tiger roster this year. Be a great thrill, wouldn't it?
It sure would.
You want to say hello to anybody back in Michigan?
Well, no, nobody in particular, just everybody.
And keep that dairy farm going, huh?
Yeah, I hope so.
You won't be back there this summer, though, I don't think, except
I
in
doubt it.
capacity as a ball player.
I hope so.
That's right. Good luck to you, Duke.
Thanks,
nice
Dan.
to see you. Duke Moss, a fine young right-hander. Now here's Tommy Usick, who is a two-sport star. Tommy, of course, was a great football player at Michigan State on that big championship team they had over there. He is now one of the Tigers' young catchers working out in camp. Tom, why did you choose baseball instead of pro football?
Oh, Van, I think it's a little easier on you physically, and financially it's a little better, too.
Where did you catch last year?
Wilkesboro.
And what kind of a year did you have?
Oh, not too bad. Could have had a lot better, but kind of got started a little late.
And won't be many years will you be probably right in Briggs Stadium.
Well, I sure hope so, Van.
I certainly do, too, and good luck to you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Tommy Usick, another one of the fine young Tiger prospects working out here in the Grapefruit League. And this is Van Patrick speaking. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Frank House, fine young catcher of the Detroit Tigers. And Frank, last year, after returning from the service, got off to a great start, and in the early stages of the American League season was right up there among the leading hitters. Frank, you tapered off a little bit after that.
Yeah, I did, Van. Seemed like the weather got a little hotter, and I got a little tighter, and it made me quite weak, and I hope to overcome that this year with a little extra weight I've added.
You know, you had seemed a continual loss of weight during the last half of the season last year. I know a couple of times you wound up in the hospital trying to find out what was causing that. Was it overwork, or what was it?
No, Van, I don't know what it was, but all I know is I went from 204 pounds to 168, and that's not quite natural, no matter how much you work.
You lose your power when you lose that weight, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You get pretty weak.
Frank, you were reported this year, and you look in better shape than I've ever seen you. You look a lot heavier, too.
Yeah, Van, I weighed about 2.7 when I come down. I'm holding around 200 now, and I hope to carry most of that north with me.
What did you do during the winter months?
Well, I was a public relations man for B.A. Chaplow in Lumberyard up there in Detroit on the east side, and then I went home in the latter part of the winter and did a lot of hunting to get my legs in shape.
Frank, you still make your home in Bessemer, Alabama?
Well, no, I bought a home up there in Detroit, Van, and I imagine I'll stay up there now.
Well, Frank, of course, you are a left-hand batter, and Red Wilson, the other catcher who works with you, is a right-hand batter. Last year they were platooning you fellows quite a bit. Now, how do you feel about this left-hander, right-hander business? Do you actually worry about who's pitching?
No, Van, it doesn't matter to me. I don't seem like I bear down harder on left-handers than I do on right-handers. I guess it's because left-handers are not supposed to hit left-handers, and so I try to overcome that, you know.
What about this new catcher's box they have this year? Is that going to interfere with your catching any?
I don't think so, Van. I don't see where it's going to make any difference at all. The only thing they're trying to do, I think, is speed up the game a little, and actually it's not going to hinder the catchers any, I don't think at all.
Frank, of course, in these exhibition games down here, you've had an opportunity of working behind the plate with some of these young pitchers that Bucky Harris has in camp. Now, what fellows can you pick out that have impressed you so far, and you're certainly in a position to know?
Well, Van, we got this Frank Larry, who was Buffalo last year. He looks very good to me, and so does this Duke Moss from Utica, Michigan up there. They've both been very impressive, and I'd say, Van, we have 5, 6, 7 young pitchers down here that could very possibly give us much-needed help out there on the mound.
Well, we've certainly needed some relief pitching, too, haven't we?
We certainly have, and I think we got a good chance of coming up with a good crop of young pitchers this year. I really do.
Well, if we can do that, we can certainly move up in the American League race. What do you think?
I certainly think so. That's been our biggest trouble.
Well, Frank, I hope this year is your great year, and I'm sure it will be because you look in marvelous shape and you've been swishing that bat pretty good up there.
I feel pretty good, Van. I got a bad wrist right now. I hit the batting cage the other day, but I think it'll be all right.
Thank you very much, Frank, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Van.
Frank House, one of the fine young catchers of the Detroit Tigers, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and this handsome young man standing beside me here today is Bud Black, acquired for the Tigers a couple of years ago from the St. Louis Browns when they were in the American League and owned by Bill Veeck. Bud, during the past couple of years, has been wearing a different kind of uniform. He's been doing a little pitching for Uncle Sam. And I mean pitching literally, because besides being in the service, he also had a fine opportunity to do some pitching, winning 32 ball games while losing only one, and with an earned run average of .65 or 6.7. That's just a little over a half run a ball game, Bud. Now, that prompts the question, what kind of opposition did you have in that Army? Pretty good?
Well, we had a little of every kind, Van. Of course, we had a lot of poor opposition, but we had a few good ball clubs that we did face.
Well, that's a tremendous record. What now? The next question might be, what happened on the one ball game you lost?
Well, that just ironically enough, it was the last ball game of the season. We were in the All-Army tournament out there, and we lost out to Fort Jackson, and of course, little Boo-Boo Phillips was on that club.
Oh, he was playing on the same ball club?
And he hit one off me that day, so I just like to skip that ball game.
Bud, of course, it goes back now to about the 1952 season when you were traded by the St. Louis Browns to Detroit. Were you happy about that deal?
Very much so, Van. It came as a surprise. I didn't know if the Browns had given up on me or what. I had a little sore arm at the time, but I was only 19 years old, and I couldn't see how they could give up on me being I was still that young. But I didn't know what to think. I found it out reading it in the newspapers, so nobody told me.
Why is it that most baseball deals, you find out about it by hearing it on the radio or television or reading it in the newspapers? Maybe you're hard to find. Maybe that's it.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe they're just afraid to tell you you've been traded. I don't know, man.
How do you feel about this Tiger Ball Club now? You have an excellent opportunity to break into this pitching staff.
Well, I think it offers a great opportunity for myself, and I think the ball club is a very young ball club, and I think they have great possibilities.
Yes, certainly young. I think the average age is about 24 and a half years.
Well, I don't know. I just know we're shooting for that first division this year, and
Well, I just hope you can come up and win about 15 ball games for them. That would help them attain that lofty perch.
Well, I'm going to try, Van. I'm going to shoot for higher than that, so if I win 15, it'll still be good.
Bud, you're a big boy. How tall are you?
6'3", Van.
What do you weigh?
206.
And your hometown is where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. It's been swell to talk to you today, and we're looking forward to seeing you in action with the Tigers this year at Briggs Stadium.
Well, I hope I can kill you something to come out and see, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Bud Black, the fine young pitcher who just was released by Uncle Sam so he could go back to work for the Detroit Tigers. Van Patrick reporting from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Bob Miller, the fine young left-hand pitcher of the Detroit Tigers, who last year found himself in the major leagues after coming up, you may recall, the year before as a big bonus player. And Bob has been brought along slowly, and last year in the last half of the season began to justify his big bonus the Tigers paid him. Bob, you were certainly impressive in the latter part of the season last year, and manager Bucky Harris confides that he is counting on you this year, not as a relief pitcher, but as a starting pitcher with the Detroit Tigers.
Well, I hope so, Van. That'd be great.
Well, the exhibition games that you've worked in, you've looked very, very good. And what do you think particularly has changed your pitching this year?
Well, I'm fooling around with a change this year, Van, and I think my curveball's a little better, too.
Mm-hmm. You didn't have much of a curveball when you first came up to the Tigers, did you?
No, I really didn't throw any.
You didn't know what they meant by a curveball, did you?
No.
You just relied on that fastball. Well, I know a fella by the name of Bob Feller who got along pretty good with a good fastball, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Bob, during the winter months, now I understand that you either went to 3 or 4 different colleges or took some correspondence from a couple of them. What happened during the winter?
That's right, Van. Well, I went to three universities, and I took some correspondence work, and then I attended daily classes and night classes. And because I only had two months to go to school to get in my credits this year, and then I spent 6 weeks over in Europe.
I wanted to hear about that European trip. I understand that you had a lot of fun over there. What was the purpose of that trip?
Well, it was strictly goodwill, and we entertained the servicemen over there. It was sponsored by the State Department, Van. And in order to make the trip a little more interesting, I took a few courses in school in medieval history and Germanic anthropology, and really made the trip interesting.
And how about political science? You took a little of
that,
too,
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
you?
Well, I went into the economic and political situation over there right now, too.
Well, how did you find the country of Germany?
I was really impressed, no end, Van. I really think the people there are really ambitious. It's really wonderful the way they rebuild Germany itself.
Are any baseball fans over there?
No.
No baseball fans?
Well,
what do they play over
not
there?
the German people. They're strictly for soccer. And they're trying to get them interested in baseball, Van, but I guess they have a little difficulty understanding why the base runners take leadoffs. And I mean, I talked to a few of them, they just couldn't get that.
How old are you right now, Bob?
I'm 19, Van.
19 years old. You're not married either, are you?
No.
Still have a lot of that money around, too, the Tigers paid you. He's a very eligible young man. Well, Bob, of course, you've got some fine young pitchers along with you here in camp at the Tigers this year, and this pitching staff should be much better.
Oh, there's a lot of competition this year, Van. A lot of competition. Everyone has to work a little harder this year to get that job.
You'd like that shot at a starting pitcher, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Bob, it's been swell to talk to you today, and I want to wish you a lot of good luck, and I know the fans all over Michigan will be pulling for you, too.
Well, thanks very much,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you very much.
That was Bob Miller, the young left-hand pitcher from Chicago, Illinois. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League in Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Lakeland, Florida. Fine-looking young man standing beside me here today is Frank Strong Larry, young right-hand pitcher from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Frank Larry, the last 2 years, fine years at Buffalo in the International League, winning 17 ball games in 1953. Last year he won 15 ball games and almost pitched a perfect no-hit, no-run game. Frank, you may recall, came up to the Tigers at the tail end of the season and really thrilled a big crowd at Briggs Stadium one Sunday afternoon by striking out 5 Cleveland Indians in a row. And Frank, I think that goes without saying, has been your big thrill in baseball to date, hasn't it?
That really is, Van. That was a great thrill to me right there.
And that big crowd out there got a big thrill out of it. Now, I mentioned a moment ago about that almost perfect no-hit, no-run game. What's the story on that one?
Well, that's right, Van. I had a perfect game going into the 9th inning against Toronto, the team that was leading the International League up there. And I had a perfect game going to the 9th inning with 2 outs. I had 1 strike on pinch hitter Archie Wilson. Well, he said he didn't see the ball, but it was a fastball I threw around his knees, and he more or less just dropped his bat and got good wood on the ball, and the ball just came past me out of my reach and went into center field, base hit.
I understand even the visiting players booed him for getting that hit that day. You did pitch a no-hitter, though, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I did. That was the year before, though, against Ottawa.
That was a big thrill for you, too, wasn't it?
Yes,
Frank, I understand that you come from quite a family of baseball players. Even your father and some of your brothers are pitchers.
Yeah, that's right. I have two brothers pitching right now. One with the university, my younger brother, and Al is out in Arizona with the Cubs, Chicago Cubs.
A fellow standing off to the left here has a lot to do with your pitching career, Jack Ty, one of the Tiger coaches.
Yeah, that's right. He's helped me a lot.
What's your best pitch, you think, Frank? That fastball?
Well, I guess so, Van. I guess my fastball is about the best.
Do you fool around with that slider that we talk so much about on the radio, that we hear ball players talk about so much?
Well, I've started throwing one here lately, yeah.
What about the curveball? You got a good curveball.
Well,
the
I
exhibition,
still, yeah.
exhibition
Curveball.
games we've seen you work in, you were throwing it.
Yeah. I still throw my curveball, slider and fastball.
Frank, I noticed last year in spring training that you were high. You were up here most of the time with your pitches, and the final result was you went back to Buffalo for another year's seasoning. And this year, you look like you're throwing that fastball down around the knees, and you look like you're going to be in that Tiger roster this year all season.
Well, I hope so anyway, Van.
And what's changed your pitching style? They say last year you were just throwing that ball, and this year you're a pitcher.
Well, that's right. I've been trying to think a little more on the mound out there before each pitch, and that's what you got to do, just think before each pitch out there.
Well, Frank, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. I want to wish you the very best of luck, and I'm sure the fans will be rooting for you.
Well, thank you, Van.
Thank you very much. That was Frank Larry, the fine young right-hand pitcher from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Tigers training camp, Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is Billy Hepp, young left-hand pitcher from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Although Billy tells me now he is making his home in Detroit. Now, since you're making your home in Detroit, Bill, there's no question you have in mind you'll be one of the Tiger regulars this year.
I hope so, Van.
Well, you have been the last couple of years. And, Billy, I've read many statements in the newspapers now and heard a lot of talk that you said that you were a very serious young man this year, that you were very dissatisfied with your performance last year with the Tigers, and that you're out to reverse that record that you had last year.
That's right. I'm going to give it my best shot.
Well, what do you think caused that? I thought last year that you were throwing the ball about as well as anybody else could throw it, but they just didn't seem to be getting as many hitters out.
That's right. I wasn't getting the breaks last year. I did in a few games, but overall I didn't, and I figured this year if I just go at it a little harder and make up my mind to, I'm going to do a little better. At least I hope so.
What about your condition? I believe you're a little bit lighter than you were last year.
I am. I've weighed in this spring at 186.
How tall are you, Bill?
6'2½".
Well, there's no question this fellow right here has thrilled the fans at Briggs Stadium many, many times with some fine pitching performances. Bucky Harris told me the other day, Bill, that he felt you could be his top winner this year. Now, that's quite a responsibility to put on that left arm of yours.
Yes, it is.
How do you feel about the pitching staff this year, the Tigers?
I think we got a very good pitching staff. We got a lot of new guys, but overall, so far as I've seen, we're going to come up with a good club, good pitching staff, much better than I think we had last year.
You got a fine defensive ball club behind you, haven't you?
Now, all we can do is get a little pitching in there. I think we'll be all right.
How's your hitting these days?
Well, I stroked one over in Boston. They give me a base hit on there, so I'm 1 for 1.
Bill, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and I want to wish you the very best of luck, and I would certainly like to see you reverse that record this year.
So would I, and thank you, Van.
Thank you. That was Billy Hepp, the fine left-hand pitcher of the Detroit Tigers, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp, Henley Field, Lakeland, Florida. And our guest today is Ned Garber, the right-hand pitcher from Ned. Come over here, from Ney, Ohio.
Hi, Van.
I understand they're going to change the name of that town from Ney to Garber, Ohio. Is that right?
No, that's a bunch of baloney.
Is it?
It's been Ney a long time. It's going to stay that way.
Ned, you know, I have a feeling that this could be your best year in the major leagues this year. I don't know why. I guess watching you in these exhibition games and also out here in the batting practice drills, but you just look like this year, this could be the year for Ned Garber.
Well, let's hope so, Van. I felt real good. We've had real fine weather down here, and I feel that I'm more physically sound than I have been in the past several years, and I think we're going to have a pretty good ball club, so I think possibly this could be a pretty good year for a lot of us.
Ned, I understand that you credit the slider pitch with being the particular pitch that got you into the major leagues from San Antonio of the Texas League. We talk so much on the radio and television about the slider pitch, and a lot of fans ask us, what do you mean by a slider pitch? And I notice you have a baseball with you. I wish you would explain exactly what you mean.
Well, Van, a slider is what they call a nickel curveball. Some people call it a nickel curveball, but a slider is thrown a little different, and that's why it's called a slider, because the ball slides more than it does break. Mm-hmm. Well, the difference between the slider and the curve comes when you release the ball. Now, when you release a curveball, your wrist comes in, the ball comes over the top here. When you throw the slider, the wrist comes right straight down. You notice the wrist isn't broken in. The wrist comes right straight down. You jerk down on that finger. You pull on that seam. The ball spirals in this manner. As it nears the plate, it darts that way. That's why it's called a slider.
Do you throw the slider more than you do the curveball?
Well, if you had my curve, I think you would too. I don't have much of a curve, and so I go to the slider when the breaking ball is in order, most of the time.
Ned, what about the sidearm pitch? I notice many, many times, especially on a 3-2 pitch, you come in there with a sidearm pitch.
Well, sidearm pitch is kind of a rarity. Not too many pitchers can use it. My physical makeup allows me to use a sidearm pitch, and I try to make get as much good out of it as I can.
Ned, I noticed another thing, too, in the Tigers' exhibition games this year. Of course, they're using a lot of pitchers in the exhibition games, but the Tigers hope to strengthen their relief staff this year. And you, as a starter, how do you feel about being called in as a reliever?
Well, I try to help the ball club in any way I can, but being a starting pitcher, I don't believe you can help the ball club too much in both capacities. I don't think you can be a starter and a reliever too successfully. At least, I don't feel I can. I don't feel there's too many men that can. Reynolds was one guy that did.
Well, maybe you'll have a lot of help this year. I hope so.
I hope so, too.
Thank you very much, Ned. Ned Garver, fine right-hand pitcher of the Detroit Tigers. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Tigers training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick reporting from the Grapefruit League, and I have three gentlemen here with me today who are behind the scenes at Briggs Stadium and in connection with the Detroit Tigers that we talk about a lot on the air. Fellows that you hear about, you very seldom see. First of all, I'd like to introduce the superintendent of Briggs Stadium, Jess Wall, and to my right immediately is Doc Finkel, the public relations director of the Tigers, and off here to my left is Frank Conway, the traveling secretary of the Tigers. First of all, I want to get over to Jess Walls, and Jess, of course, it goes without saying that the Tigers here at Henley Field have the most beautiful ballpark in the minor leagues. The job that you have done here on this field is something tremendous.
Thank you very much, Van. We're doing everything we can to keep it like Briggs Stadium.
Well, you've got your work cut out for you there after the way those football players cut up that field.
We've got quite a job before us, Van.
What other improvements at Briggs Stadium this year? I know that you've remodeled the park a little, cutting out Kaline corners.
That's right. We've got that all set now, so we'll have more room to run.
Well, I hope on opening day you have a full house over there.
Thank you, Van. I'm quite sure we will.
Congratulations to you on the fine job you're doing.
Thank you very much, Van.
And here's Doc Finkel, who is the new public relations director of the Tigers. Doc has been around with us for a long time in sports, and Doc, you're doing a very fine job. And what primarily are you pumping out of Florida these days?
Thank you, Van. We're just trying to pump Detroit Tigers out of Florida. I'm having about as much trouble as Bucky is keeping up with these 45 ball players, that most of whom I've never seen before. And when you've got 52 uniform numbers and try to chase them down for newspapermen and photographers and yourself, it's quite a job.
Doc, while we have this opportunity and we're talking to the fans all over the state of Michigan on television, I think we can point out that anything that the Tigers can do for them, you are the man for them to get hold of. Is that right?
That's correct, Van. We're going to try and do all we can for the fans of Michigan. We know they like to come in and see the ball games, and we want to see them at Briggs Stadium.
Thank you very much, Doc Finkel. Now let's get over to Frank Conway, whose job it is to play Mother Hubbard to 45 ball players, radio announcers, and newspaper men. Frank, how are you?
Fine, Van. Thank you. And yourself?
You look like you're in great shape and ready for another big season.
Feel pretty good. We've had a nice rest so far, and we're ready to go for the coming season.
Well, Frank's job, of course, is to make all the hotel reservations, get all the train and airplane reservations, and come up with the meal money. You have to do that often, too, don't you?
That's pretty good, and they won't let you forget it either, Van.
Frank, what are some of the tribulations? What's the number one tribulation you have in connection with your job as traveling secretary?
Well, the main thing, of course, is the arranging for the transportation for the coming season, and also the housing of the ball players in the various hotels, making sure that they have their meal money ready on the appointed day. And speaking of Doc over here, you mentioned a few of the troubles he was having, and Jess, well, I don't have very many with the 1,001 things you have to do, but they're a great bunch of lads, and they've cooperated wonderfully well, and being a rookie myself, it has made it somewhat easier because of the people I'm dealing with.
Thank you very much, Frank. Frank Conway, the Tigers' traveling secretary, Jess Wall, the stadium superintendent, and Doc Finkel, the Tigers' public relations director. Van Patrick reporting from the Grapefruit League. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League, and our guest today is a young fellow who's been somewhat of a sensation with the Tigers, is developing into one of the finest ball players in the major leagues. Harvey Kuenn, the Tigers' shortstop, who in his 2 full seasons with the Tigers has now batted over 300, and last year belted out 201 hits. In addition to all this, Kuenn, for each of the last 2 years, has participated in all 155 ball games. I would imagine that's quite a talking point with the general manager when you go around to talk about salary, isn't it?
Well, Van, it certainly doesn't hurt you, I'll tell you that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this ball club now in comparison with the club that wound up the season last year. You feel it's been improved?
Well, Van, I definitely think it has been improved. We have a lot of young ball players, and we have a lot more speed, and I think we're going to do real fine.
What about the other clubs in the American League? I know you're primarily interested in this one, but do you feel it'll be as one-sided, the American League races we've had in the past couple of years?
No, Van, I don't think so. I think that Baltimore has improved quite a bit with the trade from the Yankees, and I also believe that New York has improved by the players they got from Baltimore.
You really feel that the Baltimore Ball Club or the Yankees got the better of that deal? There's been quite a bit of discussion during the winter months about it.
Well, Van, I'd say that Baltimore got the better of the deal.
What about the other clubs now, the Cleveland Indians? Do you feel that the Indians can repeat?
Well, Van, I don't know. I think I'd have to stick with the Yankees this year, but Cleveland's got this new fellow named Score, and if he's as great as they say he is, they're going to have at least, you can say, 6 good starters.
Harvey, I noticed in some of the exhibition games that you've been playing in this year, one especially, you hit a home run there. Do you swing for the fences, or do you just try to get that base hit?
No, Van, I just try and get that base hit, and, well, if they go a long way, well, I'm happy about it.
What pitcher, particularly in the American League, would you rather stay at home?
Well, I guess against Bob Lemon.
Listen, he gives everybody a lot of trouble. I don't think it's only Harvey Kuenn. I think it's everybody else. Harvey, what about Ferrie Fain over at first base?
Well, Van, he's a very good ball player. His record proves he's a great hitter, and he's a good defensive first baseman.
Say, I understand, getting into the romance department for just a moment, that not too long ago you announced your engagement. That's going to break a few hearts, you know.
Well, Van, I just can't help about that.
When is the wedding?
Well, after the season, probably in November sometime.
Harvey, of course, I'm sure that all of the fans who are looking in today will be invited, won't they, to the wedding?
I certainly will.
And bring gifts, especially in the form of base hits. Harvey, I might mention to the fans, too, that you are the player representative of the Detroit Tigers, and that job means that you have to represent the ball players in all matters dealing with the league and with the front office. Is that job a little trying for you sometime?
Well, Van, sometimes it is. You get a few complaints, and it's kind of hard to barter between the two parties.
Well, don't spend too much time on it. Just concentrate on that bat, will you?
Well, Van, that's all I'm going to concentrate on.
Good luck to you this year.
Thank you very much.
That was Harvey Kuenn, the Tigers' fine shortstop, and this is Van Patrick speaking to you from the Grapefruit League in Florida. Hello, everybody. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field, Lakeland, Florida. Gathered with me here today on this telecast are members of the Fourth Estate, gentlemen that I'm going to call on today to do a little bit of neck sticking. That is to pick the way the teams will finish in the American League. I have here on my left Lyle Smith, the sports editor of the Detroit Free Press. On my far right, Tom Mercy, the sports editor of the Flint Journal. And right next to me, Eddie Hayes of the Detroit Times. Now, I think we'll go over to Tom Mercy first of all here, Ed, and see if we can find out how Tom figures the American League race is going to wind up this year. Tom, so if you've got your neck out far enough, go right ahead.
Well, Van, I'm going to switch back and say that the New York Yankees are going to win back the pennant this year. They lost to the Cleveland Indians. And second place is going to be a battle between Cleveland and Chicago again, with the possibility of our own Detroit Tigers figuring in a third place finish if some of the pitching that they hope they get will, some of these youngsters come through. It's a little too early to have seen many of them do much yet, but I think the key to the Detroit situation is their pitching staff.
That's the first 4 teams, then.
That's right.
All right, what about the second division?
Well, I'd say Boston, Washington, Kansas City. Who we got left?
Baltimore.
And Baltimore in that order.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Now let's get over to Eddie Hayes. Ed?
Well, I think that when you take a championship team and add Ralph Kiner to them, you've got a team that should be a little better than last year. I think Cleveland will win rather handily. New York will be a little stronger, though they lost those big pitchers that they had. They should be second. I think Detroit has a good chance to battle with Chicago for third. I don't think Chicago will be as near as good a ball club as they were last year. That would give Detroit and Chicago battling for third. Fourth, if
Williams comes back, should be, or fifth should be the Red Sox. Baltimore moving up to sixth, Washington seventh, and I think it's a cinch that the Athletics will be a very bad eighth, or maybe first in the American Association.
You mean Lou Boudreau's timetable won't pay off this year?
No, he's a long way away from getting out of last place, I fear.
Thank you very much, Eddie Hayes. Now let's get over to the sports editor of the Detroit Free Press, Lyle Smith. How's the fishing?
Hey, real good.
Real good?
Yeah, I've been out twice.
Well,
and,
that should give you a little time to meditate about these pennant predictions.
I was thinking more about the bass, but actually, Van, on this pennant thing, I think the best thing would be to start from the bottom and figure who we could beat. And Kansas City, definitely. They haven't made any kind of a deal yet, and they were the worst club in baseball last year, so unless they really come out and do something with Finnegan and Porter Carrero to make a big deal with somebody, they're definitely last. I know we can beat them. Baltimore, they got a bunch of old men over there. I know we can beat them. Washington, we're a better ball club than Washington, although they do have some pretty well-established pitchers. All right, that's three that I think we can beat. That puts us, where? Fifth. Mm-hmm. I think that we can do better than that, although I don't think we can go up to third place. That means that we would have to win 26 more games this year than we won last year, and I just don't think that any club, unless it has terrific breaks, can jump 26 games in the standing. But I do think that we've got a real good shot for fourth, and unless Chicago, for example, is vastly overrated, Frank Lane keeps saying they've already won the pennant, but I don't know. I think he's a little too optimistic. I think we might have a chance to catch them if they would slump terrifically. For the championship, I'll go with the Indians. I think with, like Eddie said, with Connor and then this new pitcher, Herb Score, coming up, the strikeout boy, I think he should help them a lot, and they still have real good pitching and some good power over there, and I'd say the Yankees would be second.
Good. Thank you very much, Lyle Smith, Tom Mercy, and Ed Hayes. Van Patrick speaking to you from the Detroit Tigers spring training camp at Henley Field in Lakeland, Florida.